So this is after one turn in the Throne World. I'm going to go over kind of what was produced, etc. First, the Beralti, who are looking at taking. We may just follow one group. They're looking at taking out. Let me see what we got. Well, they did succeed in taking this out already. I think they're looking at taking out this next. That may be too big for them. Yeah, they're looking at doing a scan next turn, so they're gathering their forces, but the turn after that they may need to grab stuff. So they've built up some space combat ability and some troops. Next on the Trill, we're down here and have not yet expanded terribly. They just have that 0 planet. They want to take this planet with the heavy infantry in it. And to do that, they built a bunch of drop troops. The advantage of drop troops is that they get a first shot on the first round that they fall. So they might be able to take that heavy infantry out without taking losses. The Beralti were able to attack here using a heavy infantry against a light that was there. Now, a light infantry can't possibly kill a heavy infantry because heavies take 2 hits. So it was an automatic victory for them. They got away cheap that way. And we're seeing this with everyone. They're beginning, I don't want to go into everybody's purchases, they're beginning to build up enough forces to do things where they're trying to look at what the troops of their surrounding planets that they've investigated have. Probably the person in the worst shape is over here. This is the Kiteni. They built up a force with a couple of drop troops. Now, they don't want to do this, but if they have to, they can land here. And after one round of space combat, they can drop the drop troops. If they kill that light infantry, they conquer the system. Neutral systems, the fleets will be destroyed if you take out the ground troops. That's sort of a last-ditch effort, but they found crap with their scans in terms of stuff that they could take. This is really too big, and the other one's similar, and this thing is ugly too. So they want to get something and make some sort of expansion, and they really don't have a chance for that at this point. All right, next turn will be a non-production turn unless an event comes up that allows it to be a production turn. And the order of play gets randomized each turn, which is kind of cool. You don't know where you're going to go. That's about it. So at the end of 3 turns, we're beginning to see a spreading out of the different empires. Now, this is one of the things that kind of bugs me about the game, is that it's hard to tell what somebody owns and what they just have scanned by looking at the board. Now, sure, you can see the flags versus the scan markers, but it's just harder to really picture how much you've taken. So, for example, purple owns nothing. Is that clear? Well, it is after you look, but it's kind of tough to see. An orange here. A little bit of territory spreading. We got a production event on this one. Advanced production, which means that, and there's somebody who doesn't have anything as well, which means everybody got kind of a surprise production they weren't counting on. Nobody was playing economic booms for the most part. We got 3 people at 3 planets each, and 3 people below that, 2 of them at 1 still. After 3 turns, we're beginning to see some of the races getting very close to each other. So, for example, the Kiteni and the Beralti are not quite adjacent, but they've got they're next to each other's scans, which is kind of big. And likewise, we've got that with the Trill and the Beralti. Down here it's a little less close, but that's going to mean that there's a lot more interaction as we go. The event for this turn was an additional research attempt, so everybody kind of pushed forward a lot. I'm seeing people being more and more interested in the ground combat side. Hard to see, but most people seem to be picking that, because it's hard to be good at both, and most planets that have spaceships have ground troops too, so there are ones that do not have spaceships or do not have many, and at least what I'm seeing that's out right now. But we're definitely seeing things fill out, and we're also seeing it come to the point where it's not necessarily clear that you can take another planet each turn. You may have to do a transfer to get your comms up in place and such. After 4 complete turns, basically everybody's kind of had a production turn and built up their forces to the point where they can start hitting the harder to crack nuts that they're stuck with at this point. Got some pretty hefty builds. The biggest build was over here with the Venib in terms of total cash. They had $27 to spend and built quite a drop force. You know, like I said, it's hard to kind of see what's expanding here. For example, red looks very potent, but they only have 3 planets. It's the Venib who are sitting at 5 with the heavy production, and somehow they just don't look that big compared to some of the other color spans, mainly because of those scan markers. But I'm hoping we'll start seeing stuff that looks more interesting. So far, nobody's really conflicted. The event this turn was an Imperial attack. Basically, some Imperial troops dropped on the Zytel, not their home world, but this world here, and pretty much got eliminated. A little iffy on Imperial attacks because it's supposed to drop troops on the ground. Well, if you win the attack with the Imperials, they just go away. There's no reason for the defender, unless they have no Space Force, to deploy their troops where they'll be at risk. So as long as they can keep their forces in space, they're largely immune. It's only one protector that attacks, which isn't very potent. If they don't have a Space Force, though, if they only have ground forces holding stuff, it could be dangerous. But at this early point in the game, nobody who was near, it was the Trill who drew it. It was a first player one, and they were first this turn. And basically they wanted to go after either the Boralti or the Zytel, basically to get rid of some of their neighbors. Well, it didn't work. Maybe they should have gone after one of the more potent players, like the Venom in particular. I don't know. But it seems best to go after somebody who is directly kind of threatening you. First battle failure, and it was kind of a setback. The Zytel attacked this planet here, which has high tech 4-4 compared to 2 space and 3 ground. They fought a round of space and dropped 6 drop troops to attack the 1 command post. That command post managed to hold out against them with just a +1 to the die roll and wipe out all 6 drop troops, while their fleets had to withdraw, and now all they have left, they have no ground troops left. So this is going to be kind of a major setback for the Zytel at this point. I'm not sure exactly what they can do immediately about it. So they can't build any more troops, and they used both their comm. I don't know. After 5 turns, the event this turn was a technological advance, which means everybody got extra chances to, well, research attack. And we'll see, we got the counters advancing at a pretty good rate for the most part. It's kind of hard to see what's going on. Most people are still well ahead in the ground side of things. But they're trying to position it as to, gee, what do I need now, rather than looking in the future, which is why ground is ahead in a lot of cases. Is, wow, I got to overcome those ground troops, and as long as there are no shields in place, I can get through that. But we are seeing overall some advancement across the board and everything. We also see, and this started last turn, people did repositionings to get their command posts a little bit more forward. It's difficult to rule the galaxy from the edge of the galaxy, and it's difficult to reach into the the areas that we're beginning to reach at this point. Things are very cluttered along the edges right now, especially through here. Once we get down, both the Zytel and the Pasha look like they've actually been having some trouble expanding tremendously. And we see this over here where the Veneb are well ahead of everyone else in terms of total victory, total planets held. They've got 6 planets. And you can see there's a lot of flags and not a lot of scans. Everybody pretty much gets a decent number of things they've looked at. Of course, both the Zytel and the Pasha are behind on that, which maybe is really what we're seeing, rather than that they're that far behind. The Catenni are just as far behind in terms of planets as the Zytel. But it looks like they have a bigger hunk of space. And the more you get to see, the better you can position and figure out what you want to do. So, to some extent, not having a lot of scans down is painful. But we are going to start seeing collisions, I'm pretty sure. We have command posts right next to each other down here for both the Beralti and the Trill. And we get another command post clicking around down here for the Catenni. So I think we're going to start seeing conflict over the resources in this game, which is the planets. It doesn't necessarily have to be valuable planets, because just owning systems is what's worth something. So even owning, one of these 0-point systems, which a survey team just went into, is worth something. Especially to the Zytel, because they get economic growth out of those two. Alright, we're going to wrap this one up, load it up. This is going slower than I hoped. I think it's not a great game solitaire. I think it's probably better in opposed play, which is kind of a shame because I really love playing things solitaire. But this may be the same effect that I have with some of the CDGs, Paths of Glory and Twilight Struggle. I think they're probably more enjoyable playing in an opposed setting, but